triangles also have a special ratio. You're going to want to be careful where you put things because obviously two sides are not congruent in a 30, 60, 90. So although we're going to set it up one way, the 30 and the 60 might be in opposite places. Okay, so the hypotenuse is always across from your right angle. And in this case, the other two, if you have a 30 and a 60, we've got a ratio that exists here, just like in the 45, 45, 90s. Okay, now when you're putting the ratio in, you're going to want to find your 30-degree angle, and across from 30 is always going to be the x. Okay, so you will have one that is just x. So directly out from 30 is x. Directly out from 60 is x radical 3. And the hypotenuse will, since that's the longest, will always be 2x. Now if I switch the 30 and the 60, then obviously the x and x radical 3 would be different, okay? So the first part that's important is making sure you get those in the right place, okay? Now remember, one of the things that makes this handy is we really only need one side length to find the others, okay? So depending on what they give you, and we'll do a couple examples so you can see each possibility, your goal always is to find x first. Because once you know what x is, we can plug it in and find the other sides. So we'll start with it in the same orientation. If that is x, that's x radical 3, and this is 2x, and the side that they give us is x, that is definitely going to be the easiest. So let's say that x is 4. Whatever side they give you is where you're going to start. So we're going to start here and say, well, that means that x must be 4, right? So then you work your way around the triangle, and we take x, and you can go to either one of these. We'll go to this one first. I'm going to substitute 4 where I see x, and if necessary, I'm going to simplify. So down here, if x is 4, then this must be 4 radical 3. No simplifying necessary for that. Then I'm going to go over to the hypotenuse. If x is 4, then this would be 2 times 4, which would be 8. Okay, so I got all 3 sides of my triangle just from one piece of information. Okay, so we're going to switch things around a little bit, so you have to put your ratios in different places. Always start with the 30. Across from 30 is x. Across from 60 is x radical 3. And the hypotenuse is 2x. Okay, so this time the side that I'm going to give you is the hypotenuse. So we're going to say that this is 12. Right, so we start with the piece that we have. If 2x equals 12, divide out 2, and x must be 6. So you can go over to the side that would represent your x, and that would have to be 6. And now that I know what x is, I can go over to where it says x radical 3, and that must be 6 radical 3. So these are the fairly easy ones because if you know x, you can just plug it into the other sides. If you know 2x, you're basically going to divide it in half to find x, and then you have x to plug in with the radical. Now you know they're not all that easy, okay? If they give us the whole number where the radical is, that's going to be similar to what you had to do with the 45, 45, 90. You're going to have to divide the radical out, okay? So let's look at one of those. Again, I don't want you to get so caught up with what their variables are, because if you find all three sides, then you can look and say, okay, this one was F and this one was D, all right? We're still going to put the ratio in. So start with 30. Across from 30 is X. Across from 60 is X radical 3. And the hypotenuse is 2X. Okay, so starting with the side that we have, you're going to set those two equal. So we have x radical 3 equals 5. You don't want the radical 3. Our goal is to solve for x. So we're going to divide out the radical. We can't leave the radical in the denominator, so we're going to rationalize. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by that radical. So on top, I have 5 radical 3. On the bottom, I have 3. And 3 doesn't go into 5, so that is my x value. So we can go over here to what should be x, and that is going to be 5 radical 3 over 3. Right? Now to get f, which is our 2x, you're going to have to double this. You're going to have to multiply it by 2. Remember, multiplying by 2, if it were just a fraction, it would be your numerator times 2. When you have a numerator that has a whole number and a radical, you're going to go for the whole number, okay? So this would be 2 times 5 radical 3 over 3 to get this side. But all we're really going to double is that. Okay, so my hypotenuse should be 10 radical 3 over 3. So that is F. Okay, so this is probably the worst case scenario. If the side length that you have is the radical side, you're going to have to divide out the radical and rationalize, and you're probably going to end up plugging that in other places. Okay. All right.